Good Saturday morning, everybody. Welcome to the Mountaineer Pregame Show. I'm Greg Crist. I'll be joined by Frank Fear here in just a moment. We also have a couple of special guests with us this morning to talk about the upcoming Mountaineer game that is being played out in Houston, and hence the early start. And Frank, if you want to come on in, I know the other night I talked about the scheduling and how we end up having to travel halfway across the country and yet play what here is an 11 11 out there is actually 11 o'clock game. Seems kind of unfair to me, but anyway, we're here to talk about the game and last week's game, a little recap on that, and then we'll talk about our show on Wednesday. But welcome in, Frank. Good to see you again as always, and looking forward to a Mountaineer win today.
Always, it's always fun. Yep, it's always fun. And we got some comments from fans here. You see it's co-op Shock the Nation. And here's another one that's going to come up in a second here. And we've got Afton is saying fingers crossed. So we're with both of them.
That's right. And we've talked all year long about how we want to see improvement. We want to see us be competitive, that sort of thing. Last week was encouraging. I felt like we played a really good game last weekend and had our chances, and listened to Coach Rodriguez' press conference. I think he was a little more upbeat about the team this go around, and they played well and had chances. And I think that's all we can ask for at this stage of the game is to see some improvement and to be competitive. And this is a daggone good football team we're playing today. So, being competitive would be a big step for us.
Yeah, there's no question that Houston has really turned it around. When you think of the job that Willie Fritz has done down in Houston, they're really competing for the Big 12 championship, and obviously a big favorite today. And so the Mountaineers have a big challenge. And yet, as you said, we played very well against ECU, had a chance to see the game live, and thought, the fight was clearly there in Morgantown. Yep. Hopefully that'll transfer to Houston.
Yeah, and really, that's all at this stage of the game. That's all you can ask for is you want your guys to go out there and play hard. And I think despite the poor record, they have shown week in, week out they go out and play hard. Now there's been a couple of weeks where they got off to a slow start and just kind of drowned in it. But I don't think it was from a lack of playing hard, and they seem to have played hard every game. And I that's one thing you got to look at and figure as a positive. That they're out there competing, still trying hard, regardless of the record. So you hope that we go out. And again, it's enjoyable to watch when. And I hate to say this because you don't want to become that way, that moral victories, that sort of thing. But when we play well, I can handle the defeat if we play well. If we blow it, then I hate it. If we play terrible, I hate it. But if we play hard, play well, and compete and have a chance, I usually enjoy it. I've enjoyed watching the BYU game and the Texas Tech game, or the Texas Christian game. Even though we lost both those games, they were still fun games to watch because we were competitive. So you don't want to get to the point where we just want to be competitive. We want to win, obviously. And that's going to come. It's just going to take some time. And we keep saying that over and over and over again. So we'll see. We'll see how it goes. And I think, after watching Scotty Fox's performance Saturday, I think we got something to build around right there. And I think that's the key to, being successful. You got to get that good quarterback, get your line straightened out, build around that, and it gives you something to, kind of gives you a foundation to start building on. And I think, Rich will be fine. He'll get it figured out.
Yeah, in fact, talking about playing hard and playing well, let's bring in our colleagues today. There's Tanner Russell, and we'll bring in Mike Fox here. We'll get them both up here. And guys, we're just so pleased that you're with us. We enjoyed watching you guys play, and now we're going to have the pleasure of listening to talk about today's game.
Frank, All I can say is I hope that people watching this have a big screen TV to watch it on. Because time you get me and Mike and Tanner on there, there's not a whole lot of room left for you. We fill it out pretty good. Welcome, guys.
Yeah.
Good morning.
Well, guys, we've been hashing out the last week's performance. We felt like the guys played pretty hard, played well, had chances to win. And Tanner, I'll start with you. When you go through a season like this, we're talking about moral victories, I guess now, but I think you want to see improvements. You want to see people playing hard. What's your take on the season so far?
It's interesting from a record standpoint and just some of the things that have happened. It reminds me a little bit of '99 when we did have a lot of talent on that team. I mean, we had a first-round draft pick, a couple second-round draft picks, but we managed to basically lose 7 games that season. And to your point, I don't think it was ever for lack of competing and going out and fighting for 4 quarters and throwing punches and whatnot, but we just managed to typically find a way to shoot our own toes off. And we had a lot of games that season where we were in them. I can tell you of all the games we lost, we were never in 2 of them. We just straight up got beat. One of those games, and I guess it's not too bad to mention on this podcast, but we played Maryland that year at Maryland, and was probably one of the. I never felt like we were. I don't remember being across from a team that I felt like we were so much the better team by far and away. We had more talent, skill positions, and everything. And we started that game, had the ball first, started driving, and then I think we turned it over. And I looked up, and it's like 33-0 that we were getting, we were getting beat. And that was one time in 5 years in Morgantown. I felt like a lot of our team that game just kind of accepted it early, and I don't want to say they quit, but they kind of just rolled over. Okay. And that's something that you hate to see. And I feel like in some of the games this season, we've seen that a little bit, just where some of the kids had just, you felt by the end of or the beginning of the third quarter, things didn't change, and they just let it slide. They just let it keep sliding. And but again, I agree, Greg, with your comments there on last week. It really appeared as if the hard edge mentality that Coach Rodriguez has was starting to take form, starting to just catch a little bit of speed there. So they were playing, and that was great to see. And if they're going to come out and fight like hell, then the chips are going to fall how they will. But that's certainly the mentality we want to see for the next 4 weeks.
Mike, you have thoughts on that? Have you been through something like this?
I don't know if Mike can hear. Mike, can you hear us? Yeah, I don't think Mike can hear us for some reason.
Looks like he's trying to.
Yeah,
he's there.
I don't know. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
We can do it.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Not sure he can hear us.
He looks like, I think he's frozen there, but we could hear him. So,
well, I'll tell you real quick while we're hopefully get Mike on. But speaking of that '99 season, we opened up in Charlotte against East Carolina University, and that was one where, again, it was just a cool scenario. I mean, it was like having a little West Virginia down there. But I don't know if Mike recalls this or not, but he actually he came to speak to the team. I believe it was Friday afternoon when we had arrived, and we did some walkthroughs and things like that. And Mike came out and of course, that was a huge deal that we had a guy down in Charlotte that was a Mountaineer and whatnot. And so that was extremely cool. But then from my perspective, I grew up a Giants fan. So to have Mike down there after his years with the Giants was extra special.
Yeah.
So that was really cool to see, and something I always remember. And of course, I hate it. We went out and again just kind of let it go there in the fourth quarter in that game, and that started a little bit of a rough season. But
yeah,
Tanner, you look at our roster, and again, Frank, if you want to communicate with Mike or through messaging, maybe we can get him figured out. But I was going to ask Tanner, you see what you talk about your team back in '99 and how some of them might have folded the tents a little bit. I'm sure that was probably addressed with teammates and that sort of thing, because you guys, there was a pride for playing for the Mountaineers. You look at now the way the NIL is and the transfer portal. A lot of these guys probably don't really understand, I don't think, what it means to play for the Mountaineers and what kind of fan base we have and that sort of thing. And you kind of look at it in two ways. You think, well, they're playing now for possibly a payday next year. Or if I don't perform well, probably not going to get paid. But at the same time, they're also, in my mind, not playing for, the pride of playing for the Mountaineers, and that's worrisome, I think. And but with that being said, I think our guys for the most part have put forth the effort. Like you said, I think they folded the tents a couple of times when things got off to a bad start. But you see that as a big problem, with the NIL and the portal and all those things.
I do, and to be truthful, we could sit and talk for a really long time and go down a lot of rabbit holes in regards to what the damage that I think is being done by the portal and whatnot. And I think it really does come down to the portal. The NIL doesn't necessarily bother me as much. If someone wants to from whether it's a business or anything like that, if they want to pay some kids to represent their company and things like that, go for it. But the transfer portal is really one of those that is become chaotic for college sports, and specifically probably football and basketball. But yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, and I think you can see it, and it's not just a Mountaineer game. You can watch college football every Saturday and see where kids they'll just stop, and they just stop playing, and it's you start to wonder, and you imagine that they've been barked at a little bit, trying to be coached up, and every coach has a different style, and but it causes problems, because I think you have a lot of kids who just say, you know what, I don't need this. I'll just kind of hang out for a couple more weeks and hit the portal and see where I land next. And it does take away what you mentioned, where people have lost, or student athletes, and it's comical calling them student athletes anymore. The NCAA, I think, has screwed that up very, very much. But there is no pride there. There's no tie to the state or just the mentality of working to get to that level and play. And there's always that easy escape hatch. And it's tough. It's tough on the university. I made the comment after it was the Utah game, and somebody had said to me, it just, they're not playing with any pride. And my quick response, and I'll gladly stand by it, is you can't buy pride. You just can't. And I mean, it's a lot on Coach Rodriguez and that staff right now, because and by all means, check my numbers, but I think were we around 80 new players this year?
Yeah.
So, that's one of those things, like when you talk about 99, and I distinctly remember being in the locker room there in Charlotte, and we're none of us expected to lose that game. We shouldn't have lost that game, but we had right there a quick, just, some of the senior leaders just got into everybody else's face, and we tried to make sure that we were competing every time we went out. And that's tough. That's a tough thing to build when there's such a revolving door each and every season. So, the coaching staff's going out, they're recruiting kids, they're hitting the portal, they bring them in, and they have to keep recruiting. They have to keep them happy. And this, so long-winded answer, but yes, it's tough. And I always go back to the graduation thing too. You think about homecoming, and we were at homecoming, or you guys were at homecoming last week, and you think about everybody that's there for homecoming, right? And but so many of these kids now you start to see on Saturdays, and you look, and well, they're at West Virginia, they've come through Georgia or North Texas or something like that, and now they're here, and so where do they go at homecoming? I mean, who gets to claim them, and what school do they claim? So it's a problem. I mean, Greg, it's a problem. I think it's a significant problem. And like I said, we can talk all day about the money and the issues that's going to bring up. There's still issues down the road that I think about that we're going to be seeing on an ESPN 30 for 30 in a few years. But it's tough because it's tough to build pride, and going back to that, it's when you're a freshman and you all go through the same mess of stuff as a freshman, and you build, and you're there, and you fight together, and you get through it together, and then next thing you know, you're the junior, senior, upperclassman leadership, and that's what we're missing now in college sports.
I think I made the comment on here several times. You watch a game on TV, and it used to be here's Tanner Russell graduated from Princeton as an all-stater, blah blah blah. Now here's Tanner Russell transferred from Houston, then went to Nevada, Las Vegas. Now he's at WVU. It's never about the high school anymore. It's always where they transferred from one college to the other. So
that's correct.
God, makes your head spin sometimes. I don't know if is Mike. Did we get Mike in there yet, Frank?
Can you hear me?
I think so. Go. Hi.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
We sure
Yeah.
can.
Hey, how's everybody? I had to switch. I went from my computer to my iPhone. So sorry for the whatever. So it's always something. So
Mike,
how's
to get off that billfold and get some good Wi-Fi going there, man.
Well, I got good Wi-Fi. I just think my computer's old, but my phone is new, so we're good in the phone
That's
department.
the reason, yeah.
Hey, Mike, we were talking about the team this year and the record, and how now we're looking at effort and playing hard, those types of things, and playing for pride, and et cetera, et cetera. I don't know if you experienced any. I'm sure not a season like this, but anything similar to this where you get to the point to where it's not about wins and losses. It's about playing hard, playing with pride, and that sort of thing. Anyway, what's your take on this Mountaineer team so far?
Well, I mean, the bottom line for me, and every level and any level that I played, was sometimes you have bad years. Okay, you just have bad years, and the only thing you can do is look in the mirror and prove yourself, and knowing that you can walk off the field and look in the mirror and know that you gave it your all is the bottom line to all bottom lines. I mean, I remember a couple years when I was with the Giants that, we had a bad season, and let me tell you something. The ownership, they walked around that field like, don't be a lazy person. And I've never had that lazy problem, but if there was guys goofing off or whatever, and you're not winning and you're laughing too much, you probably, they didn't show up on the team the next year. You know what I'm saying? So, I know every level's a little different, but the same thing goes. If you don't got, it's like I caught some of what Tanner said. You got to have pride, and you got to leave your game on the field, because you can't go home and talk about it if you didn't do it. So you got to work hard and leave it on the field, and there's just some days you're outgunned, and some days you're outsmarted, and some days you're outcoached, and right now, I just think, without going too deep into it right this second, there's just a lot of instability with what they're doing. I mean, let's break this down for a second, real quick, easy numbers. There's almost 800 colleges, okay? 800. You got 140 colleges that are, let's just say, in the top 140, okay? The only way to break that down is, you got to have 35 different levels of leagues, 4 different levels of leagues, 35 teams a pop in the top 140. Easy numbers, right? But, we're rewarding the people who have the most money so they get the best players. In the NFL, the worst team gets the best players. In the NFL, they share revenues, so there is no money rule problems throughout all those TV contracts. So really, they're dismantling the old way severely, but and just totally turning it upside down. But you're gonna need to build stability, and in the end, it's gonna come down to who is teaching these young men how to move forward in life. And it'll end up being the best teachers get the best players, unless they come up with some type of draft system. I mean, could you imagine four technical premier leagues in the NF or in the NCAA? You got your top 35 teams, your next 35, the next 35, and the next 35, and then imagine draft picks for all those. I mean, this could be big for TV and all the things that go into it, because they turned it into a business, and if it's a business like it is, you might as well turn it into a business too. And anytime you do something on the cheap, it usually don't work out in the end. So hopefully we can get some stability in that department. But pride, like Tanner said, nobody had to pay me to go out there and go 100 miles an hour. I did it because I love doing it. You know what I'm saying? So
Right.
that's just the bottom line. And you got to have good teachers. If you don't have, like I said, it's like an amusement park. I was born and raised in Ohio, so you had Jog Lake and SeaWorld over there in Aurora. Then you had down near Cincinnati, you had Kings Island, and up in the northwest, you had Cedar Point. They all had a lot of things. It was fun, but they all had a major roller coaster. So we got to figure out a way that's going to make West Virginia special again. And, I've said this before in a few other podcasts. We need to utilize the people that's been there, like Tanner and me and others, to help. I'm not saying take a full-time job, but they need a touch of the success of the past to move to the future. Other than that, we're just playing the game with numbers, and that's what I see.
Well, I think we're seeing, Rich Rod, I think, is making that effort. I think, to get people back in the fold and that sort of thing. But, even with that, and I agree with you. I think, you guys, I think for a few years there, it just seemed like the alumni, the past players were kind of pushed to the side and not much going on with that. And I think that hurt the program down the road. I think Rich Rod's trying to bring it back now.
I'm not saying he's not. I'm just saying they need to, the fellas and they need to utilize their alumni as ambassadors to the program at different levels. I mean, we're talking about, you got people that understand the positions, that played them, was in there. It ain't just, line up in the A gap. Hell, there's a lot of shit that happens down there in the A gap. And it's not just, hey, take the wide 9 all the way out to the sidelines. There's a whole lot to that, just other than doing it. But the bottom line is you got to make it special. You need to utilize the people that are there, because every day that we don't go forward, that's 10 steps backwards we go. And, that's just not going to be good for us. Can you say, are we in the top 35? Can we at least maybe say we're in the top 35 in college football? I'd like to be able to say that at the end of the next 2 years, because right now we're not there yet, and there's all the reasons why, but the excuses suck. They don't put victories on the scoreboard. So
and I agree with Mike in pretty much with all that, and I would say that because I've had the question thrown at me here and there. Is Rodriguez was he the best choice? And I really do think Coach Rodriguez was a great choice to come back, because it's a matter of just giving it a little bit of time, and that's hard to swallow when you have a season and you've got talent out there, but I know he is trying to make it special. He wants it. He wants WVU. I think, Mike, to your point, he wants WVU to be into that top 35 consistently all the time. You see it in the recruiting now when we hear about different things. But yeah, we have to get back to, it's got to be a special place. It can't be a stepping stone, not for coaches, not for players. And I think we're seeing that a little too often.
Yeah, I mean, I agree 100% with what you said, Tanner. Rich was the right choice for the school. I ain't got no gripe with that, because I think Rich is a good coach to begin with. So I just, we got Ohio State to the west of us. We got Pitt to the north. We got freaking Penn State over there to the northeast. Then you got all those other teams around us. You just draw a 500-mile circle around Morgantown, West Virginia. There's a lot of competition there. So, how do we shake those kids and that talent to where we get to a good place here in Morgantown? Well, I think you got to come up with a bigger, better plan that's stable for the whole market, and then just go from there. Because I think what's going to happen is your top teams with all the money, they're going to get the top players. Like I said in the beginning, in the NFL, unfortunately, the best players go to the worst teams. And sometimes those worst teams, they're not prepared to take that player to where he needs to go to begin with. But in some cases, that kid may outlast the coach that was in that program. Don't want that to happen at Morgantown, but I'm just saying it needs to be bigger than just what we're saying, and the money, and everybody's getting the money and they're running. They need to retain employment, and I said this before. They need to retain employment through some form of a state retirement. And I know people that maybe not want to hear all that, but you know what? If a young man comes in there and makes X in 4 or 5 years, and he donated his time and received goods and money for the program, and the program done well, that's a great way to retain people. Because as a young person, guess what? And then you probably understand this too, Tanner. Imagine me and you being able to make money the first 4 or 5 years of our life when we were in college.
Oh, yeah.
Wow,
100%.
we would have had we would have been able to have 2 retirements by now. You know what I'm saying? So instead, we get one good and one, and that's good. But I mean, obviously, we understand how expensive life is, and as we get older, everything gets costing more. So it's just like, what's better than 1 retirement? 2 retirements. What's better than 2 retirements? 3 retirements. So if you get to go to college and you can get some form of a real retirement over and above the NIL money, which I get all that, but they need to have people that guide them so they don't sit there and blow it.
Yes.
Because they will blow it. So because they'll have a lot of help blowing it too. They'll have friends and this and that. And everybody that you do love today, you may not love in 30 years. They may not be the person, but they're going to have their hand in your pocket. So, but you get where I'm heading with this. The point is structure. You got to have a landing spot, a teaching ground, a proving ground to be able to elevate these players. Just because they were 5-star recruits in high school, that don't mean nothing to me when they get to college. It's a start. You got to keep earning your wings, So that's what I think.
Yeah, and guys, I know hearing you guys talk about these things, I talked to Owen Smith not long ago, and kind of along the same lines. He basically said, we got to sell what we have here, and he talked about the state and the beauty and the people and all that kind of thing, and we need to sell that as to the kids for the program. He said when he got here, that's one of the things he first noticed. He also mentioned the money thing. He said, if I were a 18, 19-year-old kid and they had me 150 grand, he said, I know what's going to happen to me, and unlike, not unlike every other 18 or 19-year-old kid gets handed a lot of money, what's going to happen. So, there has to be something put in place to kind of control that.
Yep.
If a lot parents are, not all, but some parents will be good at it, but not all. And, because in a lot of those cases, they didn't never had any money either. So, all of a sudden have this big influx of money, then there's going to be problems associated with that. So
and just to chime in a second on that, and that's the other part of the ambassador program. We got alumni that they've chosen the financial field. You got guys like Matt Ratcher, Pat Marlette, Under Johnson, and I'm sure in your clan of crew, Tanner, guys too.
Yep.
These guys have, they've went through 30 years of markets, ups and downs and all arounds, and they understand the value of compounding interest and so on and so forth. These are the people that need to talk to the players that come to our school. That's how I see it.
And you know what, Mike, you make a phenomenal point again, because there are a lot of people in a lot of industries, financial being the one we're obviously hitting on now, but guys that have been on that field, been through the trenches and the battles and all that, they graduated from WVU and they've moved on and they're doing things like that. And they are our alumni. A lot of us are, I'm in Morgantown 3 days a week for work, and we're around, right? So I agree. To be able to have that, because at some point it will have to get ratcheted down with the transfer portal. So hopefully you've got some longer terms with people and they're building a couple years, but yeah, Greg, to your point, it's the same old story. We've heard it for decades of, somebody comes into money, they don't have the support behind them from a friends or family standpoint to basically teach them or be a sounding board for them to avoid the pitfalls. The biggest thing that I think about is when it's this NIL money, they're 1099, right? So they're just 1099 employees. Nobody's taking taxes out or any of that. And then a few years later, they haven't reported that as taxable income. And, now their rear end's really in a sling. So,
yeah. Or there's ways to offset those taxes. There's different things they can potentially do, but nobody's talking to them, because I'm sure we got some CPAs and accountants in the field. Hell, 100%. Jim Duffield, who was a nose tackle, he's a CPA up in Alaska. He played with West Virginia. I'm sure would know a couple things about, whatever's and the howevers, but to keep everything legal and above board. But yeah, I'm all about utilizing the money, but you gotta protect it. You really want to protect them from themselves is what it comes down to. I'm not saying don't go get something that you want. I'm just saying it's better when you're 60 to have it than when you're 20. Okay, so. Because I'm almost 60 now, so.
You guys, what you're talking about, Mike and I, you and I have talked about this.
Yes.
Here's the way I look at it, and the poster child right now is LSU. So how did things shake down at LSU? The governor gets involved and says the AD is not going to be involved in picking the next coach, and the next thing you know, the AD's gone. What's amazing to me, but it's not, because I worked in organizations. That was my specialty when I was a college professor. And what you've got here is a system that's completely flawed. And you're trying to run a system that's completely flawed using old practices. What's
It
happening
don't
right
work.
now is it's obvious it's not working. The governor should have no role in talking about who's going to be our next coach. And what's happening, and I saw this at Michigan State, and it was a double-pronged disaster. And that is the donors took advantage. Big donors put big money on the table, gave Mel Tucker a $195 million contract extension, and we know how that happened. So let's flip that coin. Some smart university, because these guys who are in charge don't think the way I'm going to describe. They think in terms of the old way, donors, political bigwigs. Who has a bigger stake in the future of WVU football than the guys who played WVU football? If you organize them, if you basically say there are primary stakeholders, what kind of system could we put together that would enable us to have an outstanding program? And, Kevin Johnston is doing a great job now with the varsity club. You saw that this past weekend. But the point is, you got to take the next step. And that is begin to look at the football alumni, the basketball alumni as your primary stakeholders. And I'm sorry to say this because it is a criticism. ADs don't think that way. They think big donors, people in high positions, political positions, and they look at the fans as consumers. I'll tell you what, football alumni aren't consumers. They're huge stakeholders. And I just hope, we talked about this, Mike, that's going to happen at West Virginia.
Yep. Listen, me and you are going to go back to that topic on another day, but just if you got guys in other areas, we got stakes in our university because we have pride, because we don't want to lose every damn Saturday. We don't want to be everybody's homecoming favorite. I mean, Lord have mercy. It's been long enough. And it doesn't even matter. They fired James Franklin. They fired Kelly down there. It really is not their fault, okay? Those guys are still good coaches. The platform that they're being presented on is not working, and it's not going to work. I don't even care who you get, okay? If you don't figure out, like what we talked about, the only way I figure it is you got to turn it into a giant-sized NFL situation, not because I played in the NFL, but because it makes sense. You have your top, but we have more teams. So when you have more teams, you got to break it down into categories. So let's say you have 35 teams for each, technical conference, and then just run it that way, the top 140, and then everybody else, we could treat those as like a different type of Premier League type of situation, almost like, I don't understand soccer that well, but almost like the way they do soccer, kind of, sort of, right? If it don't even matter if you don't have something to sell and you can't sell it and you can't get people to buy into it, you're going to be firing good coaches for a long time. And it ain't going to make sense, but everybody's going to be happy because guess what? That's the easy fix for a team. Guess what? Let's just fire the coaches because we got 100 guys here and the coaching staff's only 20. Okay. That's an easy fix, but it gets everybody thinking, well, okay, they're going to do something. It's the worst fix in the business because if you chose him to begin with, you can't, you want to win as many as you can, but you don't get the win like you think you can win. And just because he's there doesn't mean he's got the magic formula, because the magic formula is not on the table right now. You're going to see more of this. You're going to see more of this, and what you're seeing is
that's right.
Whoever has the most money is going to get the best players, and that's just as simple as that.
Well, how about this to that point, Mike? You're absolutely right. But because two things. I figure that within the next 10 years, and it may not be that long, but I think you'll see some of the top 25, top 30 money schools. So your Alabama, your Texas, Ohio State, and you name them all off. But they're just finally it's going to come down to what, we're done dealing with the NCAA. We're going to go off and do our own thing. And we're not worried about it because everybody's going to want to play for this championship anyway, whatever we call it. So that's absolutely on the table, I think, and on the radar. But the other thing's going to be with the schools that have that money is when are we going to see, because we have that what I'd call a glass ceiling of scholarships that used to be your school's thing, right? When we have 85 of these available, so but maybe you could come on as a walk-on or invited walk-on and earn your way to a scholarship, where now they can actually say, we've got enough money, we'll make sure that you come on as you're a non-scholarship, but there's going to be enough NIL put in your account that you can pay for school and then have some to have fun with and all that. But so when do we get to the point where Ohio State is just putting out all this NIL money to put 150 kids on the roster just so they don't go over and play for Michigan?
Yeah, they're hiding the goods so nobody can get them.
Right. And they'll
It's
stand them
another
on the
strategy.
sidelines, and
I bought the competition.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, when does that kind of craziness with money stop? Because look, there are plenty of schools out there right now that have the money to do just that.
And that's probably why the way I see it, and a lot of the schools with the big money are not going to like this, but that's probably why they're going to have to. Everyone's going to have to throw their money in a big pile of money to subsidize all the other schools, like they did with the conferences, anyways. And then that's why they should have a draft and where the worst team gets the best pick. That's it.
Yeah.
All sounds
so-
good.
Well, guys, what's really amazing about what you're saying, what you're saying is really important, because in the woods where I live, it's an alternative paradigm. In other words, the primary paradigm doesn't even think about this. But I'll tell you what the Big Ten is doing. You've probably heard this. They're turning to private equity. They're looking to private equity money to come in, and it really will be it will be to corporatize the Big Ten. And the point
the
is,
most money gets the best teams.
And that's not the answer. But what they're doing, they don't give a crap about West Virginia. They're fighting the SEC. The Big Ten's trying to outdo the SEC for who's the king of the hill. And what they're doing is they're going to use more of the same, more money, more big money. So we're going to go to private equity. You've already screwed the damn system up. So now we're going to throw dynamite into it.
Yeah, good luck with that, because the Big Ten just got, they got all the Pac-12 and a whole bunch of other teams in their deal. So now I believe the Big Ten might get a little more competitive. Nothing against the good teams in the Big Ten. I just, I'm from Ohio, so I got to see this thing my whole life going. So, and then you got to see the SEC bloom. But the bottom line is, I think, as I've stated before, is the best teams with the most money get the best players right this second in time. The only way you can do that is to slice these teams up in 35 team conferences of the top 140, and then they need to share their money and to create a cap that they can. This is your budget. This is all you get, and then the best team could win again. The NFL don't care. The NFL never cared. They wanted parity. They wanted teams as close to 50-50, but they did that with 32 teams. In the NFL, you got there's some teams that I call them contract fulfillers, just TV contract fulfillers, meaning they're not probably going to get a little better, but they're going to sell it to everybody that they are. And then you got teams that you can actually tell that they're getting better and they are better, and that's a whole different level of play there. And they got a whole different level of player. Same thing. We can just drop it back down to the colleges and do the same thing. There might be some teams that are going to be, TV contract fulfillers, and then there's some teams that are going to keep getting better. And that's why you got to have the platform to accept the player, teach the player at every level of, getting better as a player, as a person, as, your finances up the road, because no one's thinking about that till you turn 60, right?
Well, and to even dial that back into Greg, what you were talking about, and we go back to like Scotty Fox, like, and this is something I think about right now with, okay, so we've had a rough season to this point. We got out last weekend, played TCU, played them hard, and now it starts to look like Scotty Fox is really going to be something, right? I mean, if we protect him, if he's not throwing from his back, he's going to be. He looks very talented. Now I feel like the thing that looms over the coaches is they're trying to develop everybody that's out there. I mean, we've had some nasty injuries that have just, really disrupted this season. I mean, from game one, right? But right now, the West Virginia, I feel like, and maybe it's in the back of the coaching staff's minds, but it's like right now, how much are we developing Scotty Fox on national television so that he is basically putting together film for somebody else?
Yep.
Because and I'm not, and it's not a Scotty Fox thing, but that's going back to everything we're talking about here. With every player that's out on that field right now, they are, when Mike and I were in school, we were playing. You were always playing to get that job, to get time on the field, to get that starting job, whatever, just to get into playing time. And then once you got there, you fought to keep it because, maybe it's your sophomore year and you realize, hey, I've got 2 seasons left here to compete and play, and I want to keep getting better for my coaches, for my university where I'm at now with, but I truly believe you have a lot of these kids who are mentally thinking and they're looking at the general landscape and saying, you know what, I need to be doing my best out here or growing or getting better because somebody's watching this film. The other schools are watching this,
Yes.
and, so I want to have something when I go to the portal to be prepared to show. And that's, to me, that's a hang up that every coach in the country has right now, every school. And it's difficult because you're trying to find those guys. I mean, Rich and his staff right now are trying to find the guys that are going to play that, again, as Mike said, you're not trying to coax them into getting fired up and having pride. I mean, because, let's be real. I mean, there's 22 guys out on the field, but that just means that there's typically at least 10 individual battles. If I'm out there and Mike's out there and I'm trying to block him, he's trying to run over me. But he and I have that mentality of right now, that's the battle we have to win. One of us has to win that right there. And if the other 10 guys are doing the same thing and 11 of us are winning those individual battles, then you know what? Guess what? We've got to play. We've got a victory. That all builds. But with the coaches now, I mean, they're trying to bring that out of these guys. And in the back of their mind, they're probably thinking, am I bringing this out for a kid who wants to be at West Virginia, who wants to hear the fight song and will know what the words to the alma mater and what, we're the school he claims at homecoming, or are we trying to bring something out of somebody who's in there, who has the mentality they're in their last year before free agency? So, let's get some film put together. And
I think
because we
that's
want
a huge concern for you. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I'm just saying we want that fight. You want those kids to go out and fight, but you're fighting for yourself, but you're fighting for the blue and gold.
Yep.
I mean, that's what you're doing. And how do we build that?
Yep. Yeah. Plus, it's like if you know this, Tanner. If we're not making each other better, we're not even doing the other part of our job is to make each other better. You know what I'm saying?
100%.
That was the other part of it. And then everybody's forgetting about this part of it, which is the most important ingredient of the whole thing. That's the most boring part, but it's the most important part. Your off-season workouts is what puts your teams together for the next year. And that's why, a lot of these kids are falling apart when the season starts, not just in the colleges, but in the pros too. Your first 5 or 6 weeks, you don't know who you're going to finish the season with because you don't really know how hard of the offseason these people have been going through. I mean, every offseason that I ever had, at every level, we worked our butts off, and then you build your team in your off season, and that's how you get stronger and more dependable and more beat up resistance if you're lucky. I mean, you still got to be a little lucky. You can do all that stuff and still get hurt. But everyone's playing, find a better place when they should be pounding some steel and doing a lot of running. So they're just sitting. I can't see that they'd be. I'm not saying they probably couldn't work hard on their own a little bit, but there's a whole lot different when you're in a program. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Yes, sir. 100% agree.
Yeah, and the worrisome thing I think for Mountaineer fans is you get a player like, say, Scotty Fox, who looks like he's got a lot of potential, and you're developing him and he's getting better. People are going to see this and come along with bagfuls of money. Can we hang in there with the money and keep him? That's the big concern I have for WVU.
You got to protect them. You got to train them to protect them.
Yep. So listen, we're running a little bit of short time here, and we are a pregame show. So we're going to talk real quickly here about Houston and the game today.
This was great, but you're right. Let's pivot.
Well, it is about Houston, but it's about
a little different rabbit hole.
No, this was great. Go ahead, Greg.
Well, and I would say Greg, what are your thoughts on Houston? I'll be honest, I'll be the first one to say I didn't really pay a whole lot of attention to them after, the last couple of years they've had their meltdown, somewhat of a meltdown, and I'll say it, I enjoyed watching that. But I honestly I haven't paid any attention to them. And I'm just looking through some things this year, and then it's like all of a sudden, okay, well, we play Houston this week. They're ranked, and I don't know where that came from. So we've got a game to play today.
Yeah, we do. I'm hoping the much improved West Virginia team can play them better. And we're obviously going to see. So hopefully their improvement from last week can hopefully carry over to this week. It'll be a trifling game the way I see it. But if as long as I see improvement, just like everyone's there saying, I'm okay with it when I see improvement, but I am not okay when I don't see improvement. So
great.
Hey Frank, I'm gonna turn it over to you. I'm having a hard time hearing everybody, so I'm gonna turn it over to you. I'll just put my 2 cents worth in. I just want us to go out there and compete and be in the game and have a chance. I think it's a really good football team we're getting ready to play. It's going to be a tall order going out there to play at this time of the day. Again, I think the schedulers screw us on this stuff. But anyway, I'm hoping for a win. So, got my fingers crossed. I don't know if it's going to pan out, but I just want to see us compete and have a shot, be in the game. Mm-hmm. So I'm gonna turn it over to you because I'm having a hard time hearing everyone. And I'll let you finish up with these guys and wrap it up.
Good seeing you, Chris.
Greg, we'll get back to you in a minute here. One of the things that we talked about on Wednesday, and it really, with you two guys, one on defense and one on offense, Tanner, you're exactly right. Who was paying attention to Houston? They shocked us with that last Hail Mary at the end of the game a couple of years ago, but they were terrible. With a capital T. But you look at what's happening to the Big 12 now with Arizona State last year, with Cincinnati and Houston this year, shows you the teams that were at the bottom are now competing for the top. Willie Fritz came from Tulane. He's done a great job. And here's the deal, and that's why you guys are important. This game's going to come down to our offensive line. And the reason for that is that defensive line for Houston is a terror. A guy by the name of Eddie Walls has 5.5 sacks by himself. The team has 21 sacks, and the team has a total of 12 forced fumbles. And so if our offensive line doesn't get better, particularly protecting, that quarterback, it's going to be terrible. And so that's probably too strong. But I think that's the key of the game for me. Plus, they have an incredibly good Ethan Sanchez is his name, a really good place kicker. came from Old Dominion. He's at 85%, hit a 52-yard field goal and 72 points already this year. This is a totally different Houston team. Up with TCU and play similarly to have a chance in this game.
Yeah, I agree. And, one thing I think we can circle back on with talking about Houston and Cincinnati and a lot of what we've been talking about, kind of Mike's point, but, would you consider those that top echelon of schools, or are they somewhere down that middle and lower? And so, I would say that middle and a little bit lower. And so for the last couple of years, they've had coaches come in, with actually both schools losing their coaches 2 years ago, but they've been building, and I think it's been a consistent build. It's been a consistent teaching. To Mike's point, you have to have the facility, you have to have the platform, you have to have the coaches that can communicate. That, they have to be good teachers, and it looks like while we have not been paying attention, they have developed two pretty damn good football teams. And, when you look at Houston in particular, to have a kicker that can put the ball in from 50 yards out is obviously a problem, because you're really shortening the field for their offense. And then the defense that you're talking about, again, we're either, and I think we'll see it pretty early, we're either going to, fist fight in the trenches there, or we're going to get run over. And I'm sure that the criticism will not end up where it needs to be, but typically they'll start with the quarterback. But look, if the quarterback's having a terrible game, no quarterback I ever played with or blocked for did a very good job throwing from their back. So we will definitely see that. But I think what West Virginia is going to face today is a team that is not brand new. They're not all new to each other. The majority of that team have been in place for a couple of years. Certainly they have some transfers in, but the majority of that team, the majority of the roster at Cincinnati are guys who have been there a couple of years, and they're building on something. They're not unknown to each other, and so they're ready to get in with the schemes, get with the coaches, and they're winning some football games. They're ranked. They're doing what they need to do.
And Frank, I want to add this too.
And they haven't. Go ahead.
If you think back to last week's game, one of the things we talked about in the post game was how, when TCU would blitz, there were several occasions where they came untouched and just killed our quarterback. And you don't think Houston saw that on a film? I guarantee you we're going to see lots of blitzes today. So they better be ready for that.
Yeah, usually if you can't stop it, you get it.
Yeah. Well, and also we're facing another dual threat. Yeah, we're facing another dual threat quarterback in Connor Wigman. And he got a 50-yarder running the ball last week against Arizona State. And but and I think, Mike, what you said, I think if you had to say, okay, give me a line I can live with, and it says it, we want to see progress. And we want to see progress. And when there's not progress there, then there's a lot of concern. But let's just hope that what we need to see, we didn't see after the BYU game. We came back against BYU, and then the next week we didn't follow through. We played well against TCU. What we want to see this time is what we didn't see before. We want to see progress. I think it's as simple as that.
It's that simple. We'll take progress, but we need victories. But that's not going to happen this year. So,
well, I hope. I tell you what, it would be. I was
that's
looking.
Right.
I was looking the other day. I'm thinking we got 4 games left. If we manage to pull it off, we'd be bowl eligible. But that'd be quite the prop bet, I think. But I'll tell you what. To the progress point, the one place I personally don't feel like we've done enough progressing in the right directions our defensive secondary. It's to the point where it looks like they're getting picked on. It's like a couple of weak spots are found. And again, I'm gonna say some of these things because you know what, Mike, we've been there and we've taken the abuse verbally. So I mean, every now and then it's nice to I don't feel bad about pointing some things out, but I mean, our secondary they just have to improve. This is not a, I mean, oh well, maybe they'll do a little bit better. I mean, they have to go leaps and bounds at this point because there are just too many times where the rest of the defense will do the job. We put the team in a 3rd and long, and receivers are running around wide open.
Yeah, I mean,
That has to change.
Yeah. Half the problem is constructive criticism is considered picking on people nowadays, and these guys will run and head to the transport portal for
That's
it.
right.
Because, I mean, that's the whole problem. You know, wham, 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 I'm leaving, and then. I've never heard of having to kiss someone's what to play some game of football. You know what I'm saying? So.
No, I'm with you. Understand and agree.
Well, I'll tell you what, my message to them would be is if you don't get any better, you go in that transfer portal, you might stay there for the next 6 years because nobody wants you unless you get a little bit better.
Well, you know what? That's a good point. That's a good point. I mean, if you wanna act like a brat and you don't want to play, you don't want to take some hard coaching, that doesn't look great on film now, does it?
That's right. That's exactly right. Well, Frank, we're a little over an hour. You want to go ahead and wrap us up for this episode, and we appreciate you guys coming in, man. I love sitting and listening. Frank, I think when we get these two guys again, we just turn it over to them. We'll just sit back and watch like everybody else and enjoy it.
Hey, we enjoyed it too. Good seeing you, Tanner.
Absolutely. You as well, Mike. It's been way too long.
Yep.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Frank. Wrap it up, baby.
Well, we're going to be back with let's put this up right now. We're going to be back with the post-game show about 20 to 30 minutes after the final gun, and Mike Fox is going to be back with us, and hopefully we'll have a victory, not just talking about playing better, but we'll
have a lot to talk about. That,
Greg, do you want to bring us home, or do you want me to do it?
I wonder if Mike will be excited.
That's right.
I'll probably be pretty pissed, but But it'll be a constructive kind of piss. You know what I'm saying?
Well, but how about this? Go ahead. So I'll step out on the ledge here. I'll say I think we're gonna wrap one up today. We're gonna pull off an upset. Say about.
All right.
Let's go 35-28.
All right.
How about that?
I'm with you.
So,
let me write that down. I'm going to write that down.
Write it down.
What do you
see.
think, Mike? Give us a score.
But I hope Tanner's right.
I'll tell you what. I wish I was as I wish I was as optimistic as Tanner, but and I hate to go against our team, but it's probably we're probably going to lose 38-24. So
38-24. Okay, got Mike down there too. Okay, we're ready to go. Game kickoff is in about 20 minutes, I think. Yeah.
Let's go Mountaineers is all I got to say.
Yeah.
That's right.
Take us home, Greg.
All right, guys. We appreciate you, both of you, for joining us. It's been fun, and we really enjoyed it. We appreciate everybody tuning in and watching us, and we look forward to bringing you the post-game show. Hopefully, we're on here talking about a Mountaineer victory. We'll talk about that as well as a great show we got coming up on Wednesday. So we hope you'll join us for that here on the Mountaineer Locker Room then and now. For Frank and Mike and Tanner, I'm Greg Crist. We appreciate you tuning in. Look forward to coming to you in the post game after the Mountaineer wins. Let's go Mountaineers. We'll see you
go.
Go, boys.
All right.